You know, leading through workplace conflict is a master's levels course all by itself. I recently had the privilege and was impressed by the work of a leader that I'm working with and the ability and strategy that she used to lead through workplace conflict with some people from her team. I pointed out to her that the way that she managed this conflict was a very not only accessible but beneficial framework. She intentionally made the decisions in how she handled this conflict, but didn't realize that in making these decisions, that she was mapping out and building a system for those under her leadership and even a broader audience on best practices on how to lead through workplace and team-based conflict. So I put words in an analogy to her framework and thought it would be good to share. First, let's just say this. Her ability to manage this conflict well made it a speed bump instead of a collision in her team. The way that she did that is, first, she made sure both people stayed in the car and that they were going in the same direction. She emphasized that the best way to take this ride was together. She told them, we came into this room as a team with a conflict, and we may leave this room as a team with a conflict. But the bigger concern for her as a leader is that they all put forth the effort to stay a team in the midst of the conflict. That's the first thing she did. She made them stay in the car. The second is she took over the steering wheel. No one could drive the car but her. No one was allowed to mow the other down or use their power or persuasiveness to kick another out of the car. They both stopped being drivers and became her passengers. And she facilitated this journey, this ride to reconciliation. That's the second thing. The third thing she did is she told them to put their seatbelts on. This was so good. She didn't coddle anyone, but made sure she drove this car in a way where it felt safe for them as passengers and they trusted her as a driver. But she also let them know there may be a chance that the offense may deepen in our time together because none of us know the future and how we're going to work through this. And if that's the case, all I ask is that all of us get out of this car and I'll set up separate cars to ride along with both of you to work through this. But she gave them and doubled down on the belief that their teamwork, their respect, and their empathy for one another would allow them to work through this in this spot. This was good. However, she also told them that we may have a few abrupt stops. We may have some wild turns, or we may need to speed up a little bit, but I don't want you to jump out of the car. That's what your seatbelt is for. So this may not be the most pleasant ride. This may seem like a risky ride, but one thing I am going to make sure it is for you is a safe ride. The next thing she did is she turned the radio off and had them pay attention to one another in the scenery and environment around them. It's like when I take my daughter on road trips and she wants the iPad and I say, nope, no iPad. I need you to look out the window. I want you to ask questions. I want you to have conversation with us. Be attentive. She did this very thing. She disconnected them from the work of work. Take your mind off of work. Take your mind off assignments. Take your mind even off of what this conflict is not allowing us to get done at a team. And I want you to be in an environment where she put them in an environment where their communication and their relationship and teamwork with one another was on center stage. She had them make eye contact. Took away phones and devices. Leave your computers where they are. Anything that could have distracted their ability to hear, sense, or feel one another, she eliminated that in the room. She wanted this meeting place, this room, to be where they heard one another, where they had empathy on both sides. The next thing she did is she made it a short ride. She didn't belabor the point. And she let this conflict settle based upon what they could handle emotionally and mentally as her teammates or team as her team that she's leading. She wanted the dispute to be settled. She definitely wanted the dispute to be settled, but she knew that the more important thing was that they both had empathy one another and made room to be offended and reconciled by someone else's or because of someone else's imperfections. They left that room knowing that neither of them handled it perfectly, but they needed to give one another space to handle it as mutually valued humans and professionals. She then, as we get to the end, she encouraged them both as they exited the car, which was the meeting location. She told them how meeting with them and handling this conflict helped her grow in her leadership and handling the issue alongside of them, and how their etiquette, watch this, as passengers in the car was a crucial brick of trust that they built for them to one day, in her mind, be able to drive this car with others. And I don't think a lot of people realize that the way that you handle conflict when you're in it is an indicator how you will handle conflict at times when you lead it. And what she did in encouraging them out of the door is she let them know that the thing that they need to celebrate, the occasion that they need to celebrate, is not only them getting a solution to this conflict, but they had a chance to grow and show themselves to be responsible teammates and even leaders when she needed to call on someone else to help her lead others through workplace conflict, because it will come up. I thought putting words to this framework and giving it an analogy, even to her, I put words to this and gave her this analogy and said, this is what you did. And I thought that it would be so helpful to so many others that are leading and have to lead through workplace conflict with their teams. I hope this was helpful.